Welcome to the Exploring Potential podcast, where we delve into the realm of unique and novel ideas within organizations. Join us as we uncover the driving force behind innovation and success by engaging in thought-provoking conversations and stories with some of the brightest minds in various fields. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us and welcome to the Exploring Potential podcast. I'm your host, Brett King. Today we'll be talking about something relevant to all of us, just about all of the time, and that is digital transformation. For our purposes, digital transformation refers to the process of using digital technologies to create new or modify existing business processes, culture, and customer experiences to really meet the changing business and marketing requirements that we're faced with. Now, the goal of digital transformation is to use technology not just to replicate an existing service in a digital form, but to use technology to transform that service into something significantly better. Now, we have the chance to really reimagine how we do business, how we engage our customers and employees with digital technology on our side. Now, before I introduce our wonderful guest, who is quite the expert on this subject, I do want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor. Today's episode of the Exploring Potential podcast is proudly presented by Cinetrain, providing the highest quality employee training, onboarding, and development solutions for cinemas across the US, Canada, and Latin America. Cinetrain helps cinemas attract and retain top talent, standardize onboarding and training, and increase revenue while decreasing operational costs. You can learn more at cinetrain.com. Now, I'm thrilled to welcome to the show my friend and the Digital Director of Development and Strategy for Caribbean Cinemas, Hannah Carrady. Hannah is an entertainment executive with expertise in digital development and strategic planning. Hannah has experience in content creation, distribution, and exhibition, and strives to deliver impactful messages to audiences and foster a connection between their personal lives and the content they see on screen. Throughout her career, she has honed her skill set on content strategy and media distribution skills. She is a proven innovative thinker with an ability to navigate the ever-evolving landscape, particularly as she expanded Caribbean Cinema's digital presence in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Prior to her current role at Caribbean Cinemas, Hannah worked as an international content distribution coordinator at A&E, which is always fun for me to get to speak with a colleague who has also worked in television. Hannah graduated from the University of Pennsylvania in 2015 with a double major in film and communications. Hannah, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Thank you, Brett. Thanks for having me. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Hi, it's nice to be here.
Of course. Always enjoy our conversations, Hannah, and I have a feeling today is going to be a really engaging one. Before we dive too far in, Hannah, would you mind just giving a quick background of, the quick history of Caribbean Cinemas to bring our listeners up to speed, as well as your personal career experience?
Yes, of course. So like a lot of other movie theater chains, Caribbean Cinemas is a family business that was founded by my grandfather about 55 years ago this summer. The chain is just under 70 sites, which equals to just under 600 screens, predominantly in Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, also in the U.S. Virgin Islands, Trinidad, Guyana, but in the Caribbean islands mostly. In terms of my career, and I think you said it pretty well in the introduction, but I officially joined the company in 2021 as Director of Digital Development and Strategy, with the main goal of executing the company's digital vision, including expanding its digital presence, optimizing existing platforms, capitalizing on trends, which we know in this world are ever changing. And essentially, using the tools that would help strengthen our position in our market and with our audience engagement as well. So right now, I work with several other teams to drive innovation, identify opportunities, and implement technologies that might align with our business objectives.
That's excellent. And it's probably pretty obvious to everybody now at this moment why we're talking to you about digital transformation, because that is such a key part of your experience and what you've brought into the company as well. So for the purposes of our conversation today, how would, in your words, how would you describe digital transformation?
Digital transformation. So, I mean, I think you defined it quite simply at the beginning, which is leveraging existing technologies to either create new processes or evolve a process to make it more effective, more efficient, whatever it might be. Um, Digital transformation is definitely a loaded term, and it's thrown around casually. It encompasses many different aspects, and some would go as far as to argue that it has little to do with technology itself and more to do with change management.
Mm.
Um, it's not simple because it's all encompassing, and it has short-term and long-term implications, and it requires a lot of patience, careful analysis, trial and error. But for purposes of this community, for purposes of our conversation and what I'm doing with Caribbean cinemas specifically, we're talking about the film industry and the movie going experience, which technically has been undergoing digital transformation for years. Um, from the digital revolution, there has been the creation of tools, formats, whether it's IMAX, whether it's ScreenX, all these sorts of technologies to enhance the business. Um, at the production level, from 35 millimeter films to hard drives, uh, shooting equipment, the cameras, they're now digital. Now there's IMAX cameras. At the studio level, you used to receive printed posters, thousands of physical posters to go, put up in poster cases. Now it's a digital image that we download on our end and upload to our digital monitors. And then at the movie going level, online purchasing wasn't always around. I think the pandemic um, definitely fueled it. Projectors went from being lit by bulb to being digital and laser. Auditorium enhancements, the seats, electronic chairs, recliner chairs, Atmos speaker systems, and the screens themselves, like IMAX screens. So, and then also the self-service kiosks. So what I'm focusing on more now is digital transformation at the back end of our operation. So our operating system, our point of sale, um, and and sort of these tools at the back end that will help make the processes a little more efficient and effective.
Sure. So wow, it's so widespread that it's probably fair to say there really isn't an area of, we're talking specifically about cinemas, you're with Caribbean cinemas, but you've got experience elsewhere as well. It seems fair to say, digital transformation, like you had said, it's kind of a loaded term. And at the same time, it also just touches everything. So from the front end and customer experience to the back end, to the point that you're working on, at the point of sale, right? There's really no part of a business, again, this is specifically to cinemas, but I would venture to say, every other industry is dealing with this in other capacities that
100%.
aren't touched by some form of digital transformation. Is that, am I off base there, or would you agree that that's...
I would agree 100%, and I think that's why it's also so difficult to define it, to define what digital
Sure.
transformation is, because it is relative to the business, the industry. It could be as specific as one system, but it can also be as large as an entire system of processes that drive an organization. Um,
Yeah, and everything in between.
And everything in between.
Yeah. What Now, you've already hinted at some of this, but I want to dig more into, because I think you have some really strong specific examples of this. What are your personal experiences with this loaded term, digital transformation? Where have you gotten your hands dirty, and what has it been like? What's the good, bad, and the ugly?
Yes, I learn something new every day, which is probably the best part of it all. One of the biggest things, and it actually relates to what we're saying, is that there's no one size fits all. Not just because you Google like what is going to make my business or what is going to increase this process. It's not necessarily going to work for you because it's worked for other people. I think that the people using the technology are equally as important as the technology that is being implemented. Because if people don't use it, what's the point?
Right.
So some of the stuff we've done since I've joined is more superficial, is updating our logo, which was manually drawn 50 years ago. So when the company entered the digital world, getting that logo to fit on ads or in posts, social media became funky. And so one of the first things we did was we made it a version of it, digital, modernized it slightly, but made sure that the dimensions and everything were going to work, whether it be circle, square, round, everything to fit today's digital world. Same thing with our website. We kind of updated the look and feel, what we called a facelift internally. So a lot of implementing physical and aesthetic touch-ups people don't necessarily need to use. When it comes to implementing systems like Indie, for instance, which is the one that I'm working on now, and there'll be an announcement about it. But the work is a lot more. It's the amount of communication, the meetings, the making sure the key point people are present and aware that their teams are finding out the information. There's a whole set of processes from onboarding to implementing to actual training sessions to then going live. So it's a lot of steps before getting anywhere. And so I would say, yeah, patience and taking it slow is the best way. But also that idea of not one size fits all for many reasons.
Right. Oh, that's a great point too. That, yeah, one size doesn't always fit all. And you need to go through those processes to really understand that. And I liked the examples that you pulled because it's a great example of for our listeners of really the widespread of what it means to have a digital transformation in some regard, right? Like, I love that you started talking about like the logo, the fact that it was hand drawn. It needed to be digitized to keep everybody sane and to actually be able to use it, properly. And which, by the way, it looks awesome. Your new website looks awesome.
Thanks.
Those are great examples of, I don't want to discount any work that was done. And I know my own web developers would give me a hard time for this, but like on the surface, right, those are perhaps more simple digital transformations as compared to rolling out a brand new point of sale system that comes with all these new digital tools that's going to improve the experience. But you really started making the point that the bigger the change, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the bigger the change, there's a lot more involved. It's not as easy as just digitizing a hand-drawn logo at
Correct.
That point. You probably need one or two people involved in that. You probably have teams of people involved in this transformation of your point of sale solution.
100%. It takes a village. There's no doing it alone. Even some of the more simple examples is like adding LED screens to some of our lobbies so we can put custom content on there, or make the physical atmosphere more exciting. There's a lot of technology you can use to quite simply do that. We see concerts now, it's like instead of a whole backdrop like it used to be, it's all digital video and footage. Take the Dome, for instance, in Vegas. Like there's
Right.
that idea of using technology to enhance the space. But now we need to use it properly to enhance the experience, not just at the client level and when it comes to purchasing online, but also at at our employees level when it comes to operating the business and all these processes that used to be done manually that don't need to be done manually anymore.
Right. I love that you said that, because that, I think, is a really good, I think it's easy to focus on the front facing, the experience of the customer when it comes to digital transformation, but just as importantly is the back end side. So, from our perspective, on the Cinetrain side, we've come into clients that are still doing onboarding paperwork literally on paper. And there's HR payroll solutions that are really great with handling that, but we also saw the need and we expanded our system to be able to accommodate that, because to your point, that's a back end thing. That's not as cool as the dome, for instance, or as a person being able to come up and purchase their tickets on a kiosk, but it's just as significant of a transformation that takes place.
It's just as important, if not more important, honestly, to a certain extent.
Right. Yeah, that's
it
well put.
definitely
Yeah.
allows for the agility in operations and communications and efficiency in processes, and as they're streamlined. Yeah, definitely.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say efficiencies and ultimately cost savings, right? There's an investment, but it's going to be offset by the cost savings because things are so much more streamlined. Taking paperwork, for example, an individual has to write their address about 6 times in your typical onboarding paperwork package.
Right.
You get it digitized, all of a sudden what used to take half a day to get the paperwork done is taking minutes, and that is, time is valuable. Time is money. There's truth to that.
Yeah. And then, the world only keeps speeding up. So as, in order to stay above, we have to move faster as well. So that's the only way. But I think that goes back to, the importance of people and the people involved in this process, because that person who's manually filling out that form has been manually filling it out forever, and it might take them half a day, but they've been doing it to, it's going to be very accurate likely, and it's going to fall into, whereas if they're doing it in a whole new system, chances are that they're overwhelmed, thrown off guard, don't know what this button means, don't want to do it wrong, have this frightened sense of, messing something up because it's now in the cloud or it's going to report into data. And so I think it's giving, that user would need that confidence to say, oh, that's the user you want to say, oh, this now takes me half the day because it's so easy, because the system allowed me to do that. And now I can run 10 of these in a day rather than just 2, right?
Right.
But without that crucial understanding, knowledge, confidence to use the system and do the work, it won't happen actually. So it's interesting. It's like you can have all the digital tools, but if they're not used properly, you're not going anywhere.
If the support isn't there, it's not going to,
and the
you're not
knowledge,
going to reap the benefits.
Right.
And I'm skipping ahead a bit. There's some other things I want to ask about, in terms of business case, but I think this is a really good thought track that we're on right now. What are some ways that we can support building that confidence? You talked earlier about digital transformation really being, having to do with change management. So what are some of the things that we can do to bring our people along with these changes, whether they're our customers or whether they're our employees?
Yeah, so communication is number one, right? Transparent communication. I think there's a certain value to the internal organization knowing it, and the internal organization almost being experts at it before really letting clients or externals into the picture. But I think it's accessibility. It's letting people know that they can ask questions. It's letting people know where in the process we are. It's showing them and teaching them, if they come to you and they say, hey, look, this is how I'm doing this. Oh, or this client is asking for this to come up on the website. It's using the solution to explain to them that this is what it's going to look like in the future. We actually don't need to drop everything and create some solution right now, because this is in the long-term solution. This will be present in the next 6-7 months. The client will be able to see that. So I think it's not hiding. It's not saying, oh, this is something that a small team is working on and you'll find out about it when you find out about it. No. Right now we're in a process where a lot of onboarding really requires IT and, and it really maybe 10 of us total to really understand this part and get the configurations going and stuff. But we've decided to open that up to everyone at the office level. So to 100 people or so. And every week we have a Q&A session. So we're starting to gather people's concerns. We can see where people are thinking ahead to certain issues that maybe we haven't even discussed in the onboarding. But without those inputs, we're also not able to be as efficient in perfecting at this level. So while it might open the floor to more cooks in the kitchen, not necessarily decision makers or more voices, right? Because sometimes people like to keep it small in order to say like, oh no, we don't want everyone else's input right now. Let's work on this and then we'll get everyone's input. But there is something to be said about taking that extra step and getting everyone's input and also sharing with them what you're doing. It avoids things down the line too. If, let's say we're working on a module of this team and then we show it to the team that's actually meant to use the module, they're going to catch 80 things that we didn't catch.
Yes.
So
getting the right people in the room.
So, and also having this knowledge and awareness that this system is coming or that these changes are coming, even if they're not in yet, people start anticipating, they start, you're somewhat more prepared when it comes. Rather than being completely caught off guard, which I think helps manage all of that a bit.
Absolutely. I mean, what you described is textbook effective change management within an organization. And, you're clearly embracing that and acting on that in a really positive way. And I think that's important to share with our listeners who, if you're looking to release a transformation, an innovation, a new thing, right? Like change management is important. There are studies out there that show people will stay in a worse situation, even if they know if they make a change, they will be better off, just because humans are so adverse to change. Yeah. They will stay in a worse position. So
it's so interesting.
It's fascinating, and it's human behavior. So
all those things you mentioned, creatures.
That's it. Yeah, you nailed
Creatures of habit, 100%.
Creatures of habit, and we don't want to get out of it, even if it makes our lives better. We are scared of it. So all of those things you mentioned, the communication, the involving people earlier, right? That's all textbook change management. And I think that's such a critical part of talking about making any organizational changes, but particularly digital transformation when potentially things change somewhat dramatically, in some cases. Now, Hannah, obviously this is fun and I love this kind of stuff. And I know you do because it's what you do, right? But at the end of the day, I know you're not doing it just for fun. There's a business reason for this, right? Could you speak to the business case or benefits to embracing digital transformation just in general?
Yeah. Of course, we mentioned some of them, right? Which is staying ahead of the competition in line with competition, right? Just at the pace of the world and just staying with the trends and using them where it works. And we also mentioned the agility part, right? And operations and communications, just because we know that it helps with communication as well. That's whether it's Microsoft Teams or whatever. Now that's something at the system level, I think a lot of organizations are used to. But I think that even more so is the data gathering, the data collection, the reporting, that data is going to help us drive better decisions it's going to drive better decision making. It also is for the clients. We mentioned a lot of this stuff at the beginning about recliner chairs, but what about purchasing concessions online? What about purchasing, your ticket, everything that revolves around consumer behavior and consumer habits changing, which they have and they continue to do. Whether it be because of streaming or online shopping, that people don't just go into the mall and wander and maybe I'll see this film. No, it's like you plan your day in advance.
Right.
So it also gives them, it's for everybody. The business case is for everybody. It's so that we are internally working more efficiently, more effectively, making better decisions. And then externally, we're also providing a better service. And a more seamless, easier experience for the client, really.
I love it. I love it. If you're not convinced that there's certain things that that need to be updated or changed, I mean, I would rewind and listen to that again because there's so many good reasons.
Yeah.
Now, playing devil's advocate, there's the flip side, right? What Hannah, are some of the challenges or risks that come from making changes like this, and how can these be overcome or at least mitigated?
Yeah, so there's always the risk that people won't want to use it. I think most of the risks, most of the challenges, I think if you've done the analysis to get if when you're focused on the tool itself or the system itself, if you've done proper analysis and have spent time with it, you will know more or less whether or not it's going to work. What you can't really foresee is how the people, how your team are gonna take that tool and use it. And so again, that takes us to the change management and to people being key in the processes, because again, you can have the best tool, you can be paying top dollar for the best tool, but if no one's using it, what is the point? That tool is just going to be sitting there doing nothing. And it's that idea of like, if you don't use it, you lose it. So I think one of the main challenges is implementing new behaviors, new habits into the day-to-day work, right? Like instead of going into what you've been doing for the last 20 years, going forward, you're going to be on a new cloud-based platform. You're going to be clicking here to do this, clicking there to do that, rather than doing things you've been doing. But so shepherding people through that, helping them see the why, troubleshooting all the way through the end, being very open, understanding that it's not going to be perfect in the beginning. There has to be trial and error in order to get it perfect. So I don't know if that answers your question. But I think that the challenges and the risks, I mean, the main fears that come from it is that it's not going to work, right? Or is that
Right.
you've agreed to something and then you have this expectation or this vision of how it's going to change everything, and then it does the complete opposite or it doesn't work. And that's something to always keep in mind. You can't have like 100% all your eggs in one basket, for lack of a better.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah,
We
I think
can't
that
we can't rely on technology forever. I don't think that we, contrary to a lot of people who think robots are going to take over the world, I think that it is always going to be a dynamic between the human brain and the human person and the technology.
yes. I tend to very much agree with you. I think we're seeing a lot of self-serve. We're even seeing, if you go to CinemaCon, right, you're going to see robots going around with little trays of food. And I think that's cool. And I think there's a use for it. But like the human touch, people crave experience. And, I think the human touch of experience will always be present no
Yeah.
matter how much you upgrade digitally.
Exactly.
And to answer your question, you definitely answered my question. In fact, I think you started really answering the follow-up question that I had for you, which is, so if you're repeating yourself, just call me out on it. But are there things that we can do in preparation for making a transformation to really know if a specific transformation will work for us? Are there tools? Are there processes? To really make sure that it is something that will work, at least to the best of our ability.
I think it's pretty hard to be certain, but I think that there is enough due diligence that can be done in order to get to that place. So one is evaluating where it's all coming from, right? Where is this change coming from? Why do we need this? Is what we're currently doing really broken? Or is the grass greener on the other side? It's analyzing what you have, analyzing what is out there, and to the best of our ability, right? Like with conversations, through trying to test out the systems, through talking to maybe other people who use the system, coming to determine whether or not it can help our needs, right? Or
Sure.
what we're looking to do in that case. Again, though, I think it's very important to fail and to see things that won't work for you so that you do get what will work for you. It's never fun, and it's not, you don't expect it, right? Like you kind of might think, oh, this is it, this is the solution. Then you catch something that doesn't work and you're like, damn. But it's just as telling.
So there's diligence, and then there's a little bit of trial and error, a little bit of dipping your toe in, because how, in some of these cases, it's impossible to know until you get to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well put. You spoke really well, Hannah, specifically around, we dug a little further into how can we support our employees through these changes and transformations. And I'm just curious, and I imagine your answers are going to be similar, but let's flip that to external facing, right? How can we support some of these changes? Because some of these changes are that you've even mentioned in the show, are going to have a direct impact on how your guests interact with your brand and interact with your company. So how can you support these changes for your guests?
That's a good question. Our solution, at least for now, what we're thinking is maintain as seamless as possible. So, the guest who's been going to Caribbean cinemas for 20, 30 years has their habit, right? Has their ways of doing it. Yes, the business has already undergone certain transformation in terms of, yes, now you can buy online, now you can reserve your seat online. But the actual system and interface that will be different to the guest, they will arrive there the same way. So our goal is not to change their direction really, but to give them more so that it's almost like a pleasant surprise, right? I'm going to open this, I'm going to go for it this time, and I'm going to say, oh my God, look what they did. Or I've been asking them to sell concessions online forever. They're finally listening to me. Because a lot of what we are doing is taking what our guests have been saying for years and making sure we can give that to them.
Right.
So, right. I mean, I think there's certain things that you could go ahead and create marketing campaigns around. So we right now are launching one around our premium format. So CXC, IMAX, ScreenX, and that's, learn about this, learn what this is, learn what you can see on here, what features make this format this. But when it comes to an operating system, you don't want to give out you also don't want to ruin that magic of the movies feeling by giving them what's going on the inside, right? Like on the back end.
They don't need to know everything.
They don't need to know.
Just how it applies to them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. I'm curious if you agree, my very brief summary of your brilliant answer to that. The things that stuck out to me, if I had to boil it down to two words, were support and education.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Am I
education, off base? Nope, not off base at all. I'd say organization, depending on how big how big every, because that knowledge everyone needs to know. Everyone needs to be on the same page. Everyone needs to have the same message, that then they can also communicate the same message.
Right. Which brings up, so let's add a word, communication too, which was very clearly stated in terms of the change management internally. Yeah. So as, we've kind of loaded the deck, but as we need to manage change internally, we need to manage change externally. And a lot of times it's similar tools, just perhaps positioned in a different way.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is kind of like the theme of this in a way with digital transformation. It can apply to so many different things in so many different ways, just kind of what frame you're working in and what angle.
Right. Hannah, this has been an absolute joy. Is there anything else, before I do want to give you a moment to, as always, to plug something special for you. But before we get there, is there anything else you'd like to add to this conversation that I perhaps haven't given you the opportunity to speak on yet?
No. I think, change is constant. Change is the only constant. And technology is part of that, and transforming is constant. Or businesses, organizations, or organisms, they are living, breathing beings that will constantly evolve.
I love that. I love that. For you saying no, that was pretty epic in terms of an answer.
Yeah, I was like, nah.
Like, we can end it right there. Like, that was a really solid way of putting it. I totally agree with you. I love that. Well, Hannah, thank you so much for taking time out of what I know is a quite busy schedule for you, for talking with me today. This is the part where I'd like to just pause and give you a few moments to plug whatever is most important to you right now. So, company, initiative, idea, you name it. The floor is yours.
Most important to me right now. I think giving back to communities, being there for your community, being present, giving back, especially as businesses and businesses that operate in multiple markets. I also want to give a shout out to, the guys at Indy, to you guys, the guys at Rango, everyone who's kind of helped us get to where we are now and helping us along this journey, because as we well said, it takes a village and it's not a one-man show ever. So yeah.
You have some amazing partners to go along on this journey with you. So it takes a village, and you have a wonderful village. Not just internally, but externally as well. So that's excellent. I appreciate you sharing that, and that is great advice for all of us, right? Give back. These are our guests. Especially as movie theaters, these are our customers. Be involved in the community. I love it. I'm expanding on your exact words. So this isn't Hannah saying this. This is me piggybacking, but. I love it. Get out there and give back to these communities. That's a wonderful use of your time, Hannah. I appreciate that.
Of course. Thanks, Brett.
Well, thank you, Hannah, for your time today. It has been an absolute pleasure. I also want to just take a moment to thank our listeners and viewers for tuning in to today's episode. Don't forget to please like and subscribe if you're getting value from this content. You can subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever it is you get your podcasts these days. Please give us a rating and a review while you're there. Let us know how we're doing. You can also watch, like, and subscribe on YouTube. Visit exploringpotential.com for more information about our team and the work we do, and cinetrain.com to learn a little more about what we do specifically for cinemas. With that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.